Friday, March 7th. When I got home from school, Papa had his horse saddled and we rode up the hill behind our barn. We had told Mama that we were going to the upper pasture to see if one of our cows had birthed her calf. What if Mama hears gunshots? Won't that alarm her? Nian, I told her, I would try to bring back a deer, he chuckled. That's why I brought my rifle as well. After about a mile, we came to a wide ravine. A good place, Papa said, dismounting. He got his gun case out of the saddlebag and opened it. Nestled inside were the pistol, a powder flask, lead balls, a tin of percussion caps, and another of lard. He picked up the pistol. First, never point a gun at anything unless you plan to shoot. I nodded. He handed it to me. Aim at that white rock on the other side of the ravine, Sophie. Pull the hammer back to full cock and get the front and rear sights lined up. I held the pistol at arm's length and squinted one eye. Good. When you're ready, slowly squeeze the trigger. I squeezed. Blam! The blast pitched my arm upward and the shot hit the side of the ravine above the rock. Try both hands, Sophie. Make your arms like a triangle. I gripped the handle with both hands, cocked the hammer, got a steady sight on the rock, and squeezed the trigger. Blam! A piece of the rock flew off. I lowered the gun and looked at Papa. He was nodding. Sarah, good. You have the idea. After I fired the remaining shot, shattering the rock, I handed the pistol back to him. Now for loading. Watch carefully. He held the gun muzzle up and poured powder into an empty chamber. First the powder, then the ball. He placed a lead ball on top of the powder and rotated the cylinder so that it lined up with the rammer. Then you unlatch the rammer and press the ball into the chamber nice and tight. After he loaded one more chamber, he had me load the remaining 3. Next comes the lard. He opened the tin and used a knife to spread a little lard over each ball. This seals the chamber and keeps the flame from igniting others when you fire. Good idea, I said, horrified at the thought. And last of all, the percussion caps. That's what ignites the powder and fires the ball. As I watched Papa seat the caps on the nipples, I wondered if I could fire one of those deadly little balls into a person. At least I know how. Now it is late, but I dip my quill and write on. Candlelight shines on the plank ceiling that slopes down on either side of me like a tent. This room is my sanctuary, a place for things I love. On the table stands a small wood carving of a girl playing the violoncello. It is a music box, and when you wind it up, she turns around to the tune of You Live in My Heart, Dear. My books are in a shelf tucked under the dormer window on the west wall. Under the east dormer stands my wooden bedstand with winged head and footboards, and on the washstand beside the door are a flowery mason pitcher and basin. As I write, I can hear the call of a screech owl. It is such a sweet, quavering sound. I lean towards the window and look out. Ja, there he is, a small dark shape in the peach tree. A full moon has risen and clouds are racing past it, headed north. Is Edward watching it too? Added later. Little did I know as I watched the moon that President Lincoln's son named Willie, like my brother, died of a fever this night. He was my age, a gentle boy who wrote poetry. Why Willie Lincoln instead of Thomas Boyd? Friday, March 14th. It was poetry day at school. Ere Steves asked us to choose a poem or write one to read aloud. Here is the one I wrote. Ere Steve praised the imagery of my metaphor, as he put it. Cypress Cathedral. There is a cathedral in Dresden that I have never seen, but it could not be as lovely as the cathedral of Lacy Green. Along the banks of Cypress Creek, the trees are like colonnade, their branches spiraling high above the water of luminous jade. After school, I went out by the fence to wait for Etta. She had to stay and look up a poem because she had forgotten to bring one. As I was untying Peg, Edward strode over. I liked your poem. The words made pictures in my mind, especially their branches spiraling high above the water of luminous jade. That's beautiful. I caught my breath. Danke. For a moment I could not think what else to say. Then I remembered his reading of Mark Antony's speech from Julius Caesar. And you made the schoolhouse seem like a Roman forum. He laughed. Danke. I always hope they won't kill Caesar, but they always do, I said. Me too. So you like Shakespeare? Ja. What's your favorite play? I hesitated. I did not dare say Romeo and Juliet. It's hard to choose. What's yours? Hamlet, I think. Or maybe Julius Caesar. Papa is going to read aloud Julius Caesar tonight for the Ideas of March, I said. He nodded. Maybe I'll read it again, too. He untied his horse and mounted. So off, Wiedersheim. He waved and started off towards his family's farm, which is on the other side of Comfort from ours. I mounted Pegasus and rode home too, forgetting all about Etta. After supper, Papa brought out the Globe Illustrated Shakespeare and laid it on the table. It is a thick book covered in red leather with gold-edged pages. He turned to the title page of the play where there is a woodcut illustration of Brutus, a sword in hand, standing over the fallen Caesar. While Mamma knitted socks and Willie played with his wooden horse, Papa read. He used a different voice for each part. In the beginning, Caesar is walking with his attendants through the streets of Rome when an old soothsayer calls out to him. Papa hunched his shoulders and looked at us from under his thick, dark eyebrows. "Beware the ideas of March," he said in a scratchy voice. It made me shiver. If Papa had been the soothsayer, Caesar would have listened. Instead, he calls the old man a dreamer. But the dream comes true, and Caesar is assassinated on that very day. Later, after I had gone upstairs, Mamma rushed in the back door from the Hauschen, the outhouse. "Friedrich! Indian fires!" I ran through Papa's studio on the top of the stairs and looked out the north window. There were 3 signal fires high in the hill. I gasped, remembering that Papa planned to go looking for our cows tomorrow. "Calm yourself, Elizabeth," Papa said. "You mustn't get so upset in your condition. Here, sit down, and I'll have a look around and make sure that the barn is locked." Then he came into the living room, took down his rifle, and went out. I rushed downstairs and caught up with him at the gate. "Papa, beware of the ideas of March." He threw back his head and laughed, the kind of hearty laugh that usually makes him smile, but not this time. "Who do you think I am, Julius Caesar?" "Nien," I said as we walked to the barn. "You are my papa, and I don't want anything to happen to you. Don't worry, Sophie. The Comanches hate Texans, not Germans. We have a treaty with the Panetka band that has never been broken on either side." I still couldn't help worrying, even though I knew about that treaty. Then I wondered, how do they tell Germans from Texans? "We say Alamen, German. Most of them understand a little of Spanish." Papa tried the lock on the bolt, and we started back to the house. "I won't live in fear, Sophie. Anyway, most of the Indians in these parts are Penateka." "Then I'll go with you. Please, Papa, otherwise I'll just worry." We paused outside the door. "Are you sure you want to go?" he asked. "I may have to camp overnight." "Sleep out with only the sky for a roof and no walls to protect us?" I took a deep breath. "I'm sure." Mamma was sitting in the kitchen with Willie on her lap. "All is well, Meenen Lieben," Papa said. "They are only looking for horses, and our barn is surely secured." "How do you know what they intend, Frederick?" Her voice had a sharp edge that cuts through me. "Because I trust them to honor the treaty, Elizabeth. Now go to sleep, and I'll be starting out early." There was a stunned silence. "You are going after the cows when there are Indians out there?" Mamma said. "They will move on at dawn." Mamma glanced at the ceiling. "Ach, Frederick, you can't know that for sure." "No fighting," Willie said. Mamma and Papa looked at him, then at each other. "Trust Elizabeth." She just blinked at him, her lips pressed together. I hate when she looks at Papa that way. "Don't be mad, Mamma," said Willie. "Don't blink your eyes so fast." He raised his arms and put his plump little hands over her eyes. In spite of herself, Mamma laughed, took his hands in hers, and kissed them. "All right, Willie. No blinking. No fighting." Later that night, after I finished writing, I blew out the candle and climbed into my feather bed. For a long time I lay awake, looking up at the little square of starry sky through the window. The fires were not very far away, and what if the Indians were not Penateka? When sleep came at last, I dreamed of an Indio peering in the window, his face hideous with war paint. He scratched on the glass with his fingernails. I awoke and sat bolt upright. Something was surely scratching at the window, but it was not an Indian. It was a tree branch. I threw myself back on my pillows, my heart still thumping. A long time ago, when I first moved upstairs, branches of that same tree scraped at the window. I cried out for Papa. He came bounding up to my room. "What is it?" cried Sophie. He sat down beside me. When I told him there was something outside my window, he put his hand on my forehead and soothed back my hair. "It's only wind in the peach tree, nothing more." He went to the window and opened it. A breeze lifted the curtains. "You see? Only the wind." He came and sat beside me. "Now go to sleep. All is well." Remembering made me feel safe now. This is why I crept downstairs, lit the candle, and wrote these last words.